get focus up. So chalo, before we start, we can do Panj Mool Mantar and 5 good mantra de jap. Ek oankar satnam Akal Murat Ajuni Saipang Gur Prasad Jap Ad Sach Jugad Sach Hai Pi Sach Nanak Hosi Pi Sach Ek Oankar Satnam Karta Purkh Nirpau Nirvair Akal Murat Ajuni Saipang Gur Prasad Jap Ad Sach Jugad Sach Hai Pi Sach Nanak Hosi Pi Sach Ek Oankar Satnam Akal Murat Ajuni Saipang Gur Prasad Jap Ad Sach Jugad Sach Hai Pi Sach Nanak Hosi Pi Sach Ek Oankar Satnam Nirpau Nirvair Akal Murat Ajuni Saipang Gur Prasad Jap Ad Sach Jugad Sach Hai Pi Sach Nanak Hosi Pi Sach Ek Oankar Akal Murat Ajuni Saipang Gur Prasad Jap Ad Sach Jugad Sach Hai Pi Sach Nanak Hosi Pi Sach WhyGuru 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 Ji Ka Khalsa, WhyGuru Ji Ki Fateh. So we're very blessed to be gathered here today as we continue the Japji Sahib course, as we try to learn and understand the teachings that Guru Nanak Dev Ji has given us in Sri Japji Sahib. So last week, Bhai Gurcharan Singh Ji went through the 12th Pauri of Sri Japji Sahib, and the first out of 4, where Guru Nanak Dev Ji gives the Siddhs teachings about the importance of believing in the teachings of WhyGuru and believing in the teachings that Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji gave them during their discussions with the Siddhs. So, after hearing about the teachings, about the importance of listening of the teachings of WhyGuru, the Siddhs then asked Guru Nanak Dev Ji about the importance of believing. And last week, Gurcharan Singh Ji went through this Pauri, and Maharaj started the 12th Pauri with the teaching, Manne ki gat kahi na jai. That the riti, the gat, the maryada, or the way of the believer and the importance of the believer cannot be told, kahi na jai. And then Maharaj continued to say, Je ko kaha pichhe puchatai. That if one tries to explain the importance of believing or the extent of the believer, they'll only regret it, they'll only repent, because the extent or the complete understanding of the importance of being a believer cannot be told. So this week, before we go into the 13th Pauri of Sri Japji Sahib, I just wanted to revisit a Pankti that we hear and we read earlier in Sri Japji Sahib. Gaviya suniya man rakhiya pao. So you might be wondering, why did I emphasize pao there? When I went through it with Bhai Sukhdeep Singh Ji, he said make sure you say pao and not pao, because as you can see there's a kanna on the pabba, which means you have to elongate the sound. So a free Santhya lesson here. This is a little teaser, make sure you come on Sundays and Tuesdays. But yeah, so pao means love. If you said pao without the kanna, it would mean fear. So that's the importance of Santhya and the importance of just making sure you pronounce Gurbani correctly. So just a little pop quiz. So Gaviya means to sing. Suniya means listen. Man means, man can mean mind, but what does it mean in this context? Accepting or believing. Same, I think they're synonymous with each other, same thing. So to believe, and then rakhiya pao, we do the arth together. Rakhiya means, okay, that is correct, but in the arth of this pauri, rakhiya means act. So once we believe, we act, and then pao, like I said, means love. So we've gone through the importance of listening in the 4 pauri, in the 4 pauri earlier where Guru Nanak Dev Ji talks about the importance of listening. But this together, this can often be described, this pankti, as our spiritual journey to liberation, the spiritual journey that a Gursikh embarks on to gain liberation. So first we sing, Gaviya, then we focus and we listen to what we're saying, what we're reciting, what we're singing. So then we listen, Suniya, Man, then we accept or we believe those teachings or what we're reciting, what we've sung and then listened to. And then when we believe, when we've accepted it, we act, and then we develop that love with WhyGuru and try to get closer to WhyGuru and become one with WhyGuru, essentially. So like I said, we've talked about the four, we've discussed the importance of singing in the third pauri, Gave Kotan. We've spoken about the importance of listening in the four pauri earlier. The four pauri are dedicated to listening. And now we're going to go into the second pauri of believing, of Manniya. So Gurcharan Singh did the first one last week. I'll now go into the second one out of 4 this week. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the Siddhs asked again, what is the importance of believing? You told us that you can't fully go into it, but what can you tell us about the importance of believing and the extent of the believer, or the Mahatma, the importance of being a true believer? And Guru Nanak Dev Ji responded, Manna Surta Hova Man Buddha. So Manna means by believing or accepting. The two again are synonymous each other. I've used believing in this talk. Surta means knowledge, or in Punjabi we would say Gyan. And then Hova means to gain or develop. And then Man in this instance does mean mind. And Bodh means our intellect or our conscience, you can say in English. So in the Western world, we use the word mind. But Gurbani develops this further and splits the two. It distinguishes between the Man and the Bodh. The Bodh refers to our intellect or our conscience. Or just to make it easier, so like, Spider-Man has his spidey sense. He knows when something's happening. Our intellect, our conscience, is like our sixth sense where we know right from wrong. So the Man, our mind, is often linked to emotions and our thoughts that come from, that are directly related from those emotions that we have. But our Bodh, on the other hand, our intellect, is seen as a better place than the Man, than the mind. So when our Man might have thoughts, when our mind might have thoughts, negative thoughts sometimes, and then it might want to act on those thoughts, the mind, because we've listened and we've believed, by truly believing, we get that knowledge, and in our buddhi, we can question that act. And we might say, should I do that? Should I not do that? Maybe I shouldn't have done that. And then in the future, so when we've truly listened and then we've believed the teachings of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji, it will develop our buddhi, will gain that knowledge in our mind and then in our intellect, and our intellect will affect the decisions we make based on the thoughts that come in our mind. So that's a bit long-winded, but if you want an even simpler arth of that, you can take that by believing, you get knowledge of WhyGuru in your mind and then in your buddhi. And you just see Parameshwar everywhere, you see God everywhere. You realize that only God is true, the sarir, the body, and everything else is temporary, and you just realize, you get that realization of God by believing. Now the next pankti, Manna Sagala Pavan Ki Sud. So again, by believing, Manna, Sagal refers to all, and then Pavan can mean worlds, realms, galaxies, all those different things. And then Ki Sud means gain knowledge. Again, we do that arth together. So put together, that means the true believer, by believing, you gain knowledge of all the worlds and all the galaxies and the different realms. So what does that mean? So I was doing Parchar with a Gursikh, and he said to me, these scientists that mari jande in telescopes, they're spending all this money on telescopes. They don't need to do that. If they read 50, 60 Japji Sahibs, they'll get knowledge of all these new planets and galaxies and these things that scientists find out. No one laughed here, but that was a joke. Maybe he said it better than me. Or it's the difference of saying it in English versus Punjabi. But in Punjabi it was funny. So, but the point being that what he was trying to say was that people they look in these telescopes. Why? Because they want to get knowledge of all these different scientific stuff that Karan reads into, right? But Maharaj is saying, Manna Sagal Pavan Ki Sud, that just by believing, you can obtain true knowledge of each corner of the world, everything that exists, each realm, each galaxy, each planet. So put into simple terms, if I asked someone if you asked me to describe Rome, but I've not been to Rome, I wouldn't really be able to explain that to you because I've not got knowledge of it. But Maharaj is saying the true believer, he gains sagal pavan ki sod, he gains knowledge of everything. And that doesn't mean, sorry, just before I go there, that doesn't mean like just being streetwise or having gyan on like geopolitical stuff or where Ukraine is. It means you get knowledge of everything that exists in all the universes, all the planets. And there's Sakya that hopefully better illustrate this and explain this. So this is a photo of Baba Buddha Ji. So in the times of Guru Amar Das Ji, there was this, the Sakhi goes that, so Baba Buddha Ji, for those who don't know, he was essentially a Brahmgyani. And Baba Buddha Ji lived from the times of Guru Nanak Dev Ji all the way until the times of Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji, and was a devoted sevadar. He did seva for the Gurus. And Baba Buddha Ji was actually of such a level that they were given the seva of passing the Gurgaddi. You could also, you could almost call it the master of ceremonies. When the Gurgaddi, the Guruship was passed, Baba Buddha Ji would conduct that. So in the times of Guru Amar Das Ji, once Guru Angad Dev Ji had left their physical body, Baba Buddha Ji had completed the ceremony of giving Guru Amar Das Ji, the third Guru, the Guruship. But at this time, Guru Angad Dev Ji's son, Datu, he was quite annoyed by this, because he felt like he had a right to the lineage as the son of Guru Angad Dev Ji, right? So what Datu did was, he actually physically kicked Guru Amar Das Ji, who was physically of an old age as well, and he verbally insulted them in front of all of the Sangat. So Guru Amar Das Ji was obviously quite upset by this, So as a result, they didn't speak to anyone, they didn't say anything to a soul, and they left and they went to their pind, their village called Basarke. And they went and they didn't tell anyone. But like Bhai Gurcharan Singh Ji told the Sakhi last week of when Guru Arjan Dev Ji went to Lahore and he missed the Guru so much and he wanted darshan of his Guru with his father, Guru Ram Das Ji, the Sangat was in a similar state again because Guru Amar Das Ji had gone and no one knew where they were. But because Baba Buddha Ji was a Brahmgyani, they had Sagal Pavan Ki Sod, they had knowledge, they had true knowledge of all the worlds, all the galaxy, all the realms. The Sangat had the idea, they thought, Baba Buddha Ji must know where Guru Amar Das Ji's gone. So they went to Baba Buddha Ji and they done benti. They said, Baba Buddha Ji, you're of such a high spiritual level. You must have Sagal Pavan Ki Sod because you are a true believer. Can you tell us where Guru Amar Das Ji is? And Baba Buddha Ji said, no, they've not told me. They've not told me where they went. They just went. They didn't even tell me. But the Sangha kept doing benti. They said, no, please. We just want a glimpse. We just want darshan of our Guru. And because Baba Buddha Ji had Sagal Pavan Ki Sod, because they were a true believer, and like we said, by believing you can obtain knowledge of everything. You become like Google Maps on steroids, I guess. Yeah. So Baba Buddha Ji could locate Guru Amar Das Ji. But Sadh Sangat Ji, this is the difference between someone of high level, a sant, and someone who's not. Baba Buddha Ji didn't show their powers either. So they came up with the idea. They said to the Sangat, you know what? So Guru Amar Das Ji's horse is still here. So what we can do is we can untie the horse and the horse will lead us to the Guru. The horse would obviously go to his master and it will lead us to Guru Amar Das Ji. So that's exactly what they did. They let the horse go and they untied the horse and the horse went to Basarke and Guru Amar Das Ji went into a stable, like a horse's stable, and they closed the door and they had put on a sign saying, anyone who enters through this door is not a Sikh of mine. So the Gursikhs had got there, Baba Buddha Ji got there and they'd seen this sign and they were like, oh, what do we do now? So Baba Buddha Ji, he went round the back, and I think if Arjan Singh's here, yeah, he can, well, yeah. So Arjan Singh went to this Gurdwara. Does anyone know what this Gurdwara is? Or what this Gurdwara is called? Hanji, yeah, Gurdwara San Sahib. So Baba Buddha Ji manned the button. They didn't enter through the door. Instead, they carved a hole at the back of the building and they went inside and Guru Amar Das Ji was in deep meditation. So Baba Buddha Ji massaged their feet, they awoken Guru Amar Das Ji, and Guru Amar Das Ji was really happy with them. One, because they'd seen Baba Buddha Ji again and they'd seen that the Sangat had travelled all this way just to get darshan of their Guru. but also because they maned the button. They believed and they accepted the button of not going through the door, and instead they'd created this hole and they got darshan of the Guru. And I think maybe someone told this Sakhi maybe in her talk that Guru Amar Das Ji then gave the button that whoever goes through this hole, does an ardas and recites a Japji Sahib their part, they will be released from the birth and death life cycles and they will get liberated, they will get mukti. So again, not only does this Sakhi show that Baba Buddha Ji had Sagal Pavan Ki Sodh by being a true believer, but again it emphasizes the importance of reciting and reading Sri Japji Sahib their part. Now another Sakhi that shows this of another Gursikh who had Sagal Pavan Ki Sodh is Baba Ram Kaur Ji. So they were actually the grandson of Baba Buddha Ji and the son of Baba Gurditta Ji. So Baba Ram Kaur Ji, they were around in the times when Guru Gobind Singh Ji had left their physical body. And at this time, 13 Gursikhs, 13 Singhs, they did binti to Baba Ram Kaur Ji because they asked, can you narrate the lives of all 10 Gurus? Because at this time, obviously, we today have different resources where we can look online, we can search different granths, we can go on different websites and organizations to find out our Sikh history. But in those times, or even like, no, we don't even have to look that far back, people would get their knowledge of Sikh history and Sikh itihas by asking their ancestors, like their grandfather or their great-grandfather. And if they didn't live in the times of the Gurus, let's say they came into Sikhi in the times of Guru Har Krishan Sahib Ji, they wouldn't be able to tell you about the first to the 7th Guru, Guru Har Rai Sahib Ji, right? So there was nothing written about the 10 Gurus apart from Guru Nanak Dev Ji. So the Sangha, the 13 Singhs, did binti to Baba Ram Kaur Ji, who after taking Amrit was renamed to Baba Gurbaksh Singh Ji, and said, can you narrate the lives of the 10 Gurus to us? And because Baba Gurbaksh Singh Ji had Sagal Pavan Ki Sodh, he was a true believer, he was able to look into the realms, go back into the times of the Gurus, and he was vividly able to narrate the stories of all the 10 Gurus. And then like a movie, like he was reciting it so vividly that the Gursikhs listening to it, it was like watching a movie. And there, I think by Sahib Singh, he was there listening to the Katha, and then he wrote the Pothi Sahib, which was then developed by Mahakavi Pai Santokh Singh Ji in what we read today in Suraj Prakash Granth. So again, just emphasizing Baba Gurbaksh Singh Ji, he also had Sagal Pavan Ki Sodh. Why? Because he was a true believer and he was able to locate, like we said, you get knowledge of all the different worlds, realms, galaxies. Now continuing the 13th Pauri, Maharaj then tells the Siddhs, Manne mohe chota na khai. So the translation will often read, and we see here, and we'll see it on Sikhi to the Max I Gurbani, is that Manne, again, by believing on your mohe, your face, you don't suffer pain, or that will sometimes also be translated to hits on your, you do not suffer those hits or pains, you don't endure that pain on your face. We'll often read that, right? So meaning essentially that the true believer, he doesn't get hits on his face, and you know, at his end time then, because if anyone's read In Search of the True Guru, by Ram Singh, he actually describes when Jamdood take you, which we'll go into that second pankti after, like you're physically beaten by Jamdood, who are the angels of death. So Maharaj gives a teaching that those who are true believers, they don't face those pains and they don't face those hits. But another arth we can do of this, so we've done here that mohe means face, but what's another arth you think we can do of the word mohe? So clue we can do, so mohe, what's another word we see? Moha, right? What does moha mean? Attachment. So another arth we can do is that by believing, you do not suffer the pains of attachment. So what does that mean? There's a couple of sakya we can narrate which illustrate this point. So in the times of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, they went, obviously we know that Guru Nanak Dev Ji went around the world to do Parchar and liberate people, right? So one day they went to a village and they sat by an old well and they went to see this man because he had actually done good karam, he done good deeds in his past life, and Guru Nanak Dev Ji came to offer him liberation. And this man was quite old, and he had 4 kids, and they were by the well, and the old man and his 4 kids were actually doing kheti, they were doing farming. And the old man was saying to his 4 sons, you know, one of you rake the hay, one of you milk the cows, just ordering them about. And then he was whining at them as well, like, oh, if I wasn't here, you lot wouldn't do anything. Yeah, if it wasn't for me, you lot wouldn't even lift a finger. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji heard this, and he said to the old man, he said, look, you're of old age now. Forget your attachment to all these things, your family and your farm and all this. You know, this is especially if you've not done bhakti, if you've not done jap, or you haven't been in meditation up until this point in your life. Definitely do it now, because you're approaching your end, obviously. So bhakti, you need to be doing that. You don't need to worry about this attachment and your attachment to your family and your farm and your work. And he said, Maharaj, that's a good little offer you've given me, but you know, you don't know these kids. If it weren't for me, these lot wouldn't get any of their work done. My family would die of starvation, because these lot are useless. They don't lift a finger, they don't do any work. It's only because of me that these lot actually do anything. And he said, this offer you're giving me of liberation, thanks, but no thanks, because my family will die of starvation. I'm alright. You know, I need to look after my family. He was attached to his family, and he didn't obviously believe the bhajan. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, look, as you wish, but when you are fed up of enduring the pain that you'll suffer from attachment, let me know and I'll liberate you. And he said, okay, ठीक है. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji left. And once Guru Nanak Dev Ji left, this old man, like Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, was approaching the end of his life. He was getting really ill. And at the same time, their ox or mud, cow, buffalo, one of their animals in the farm was getting really ill. And he thought, oh no, if that cow, ox, whatever the animal is, if that animal dies, my family, they're going to have to then buy another cow to replace that cow, and then they're going to be in debt. And at that time, one of the oxes was actually about to give birth. It was pregnant. So because he had that sword, he had that thought at his end time, he came back as a cow or an ox in that family. So and his sons, they carried on the work, and they actually did seva of him. You know, they used the cow on their farm for their work. So 4 or 5 years later, Guru Nanak Dev Ji came back to this village, and Guru Nanak Dev Ji said to the sons, and the sons obviously recognized Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and they did namaskar to him, they bowed to Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, obviously they knew, they said, where's your father? And the son said, oh, he passed away about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, he died, he got quite ill. And Maharaj said, oh, he seemed to think you lot wouldn't be able to crack on without him. He thought he was really important, and that without him, you lot wouldn't even manage. Your family would die of starvation, because you lot are nakamme, you're not going to do anything. He seems to look like you lot are doing all right. And they said, yeah, you know, we're managing. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji actually realized, obviously they knew, that the cow that they were doing, or the ox that they were doing seva of, was the children's father. So they went up to the father, and they said, oh, hello, obviously, like, fancy seeing you here. You're now suffering in this life cycle. I told you I'll offer you liberation. Now you're a cow or ox. And he goes, yeah, I know, but I'm important to these lot. Obviously, without me, they wouldn't be able to then get their milk and then sell it, you know. And Maharaj said, look, if you want now, I'll still offer you liberation. He goes, no, Maharaj. If you do that, then they're going to have to get another cow to replace me. I'm going to die. They'll have to. Then I'm worth about 500 coins of the currency at the time. Then they'll have to spend another 500 to get a cow to replace me. I can't put that debt on my family. Nah, I'm all right. And Maharaj said, chalo, all right, you know, it's up to you. Now, what happened then? At his end times, because obviously this life cycle as an ox or cow was coming towards an end, and then towards his end, he had thoughts of desire in his mind. So then he came back as a dog. And everyone who knows in India, you don't have, you know, hi-fi CCTV that Kadamvi has got in this Gurdwara. You know, your security are often dogs or animals. So he came back as a dog in this family, and he would roam around the courtyard, and if anyone came, because obviously they were doing quite well at this point now as well, the family was doing better financially, so if anyone came or tried to burgle the house, he would, you know, scare them away, and he was a dog. So Maharaj came again, and they said, hello, you want to be liberated this time? Now you're a dog? He goes, no, Maharaj, I'm the security here. if you liberate me, my family at the moment, they sleep peacefully, they've got no stress, they know that I'm here to look after them. Any burglar that comes, I'll deal with them. So now I don't want to be liberated. So Maharaj said, all right, as you wish. The story doesn't end here. He still hadn't learned, he wasn't a true believer. He then came back as a snake. Because Maharaj tells us, so obviously at the end time of his now dog life cycle, he had thoughts about where the money and the gold was buried in the family's house and how it would be protected. And Maharaj tells us in Gurbani, Antakal jo Lakshmi simara, aisi chinta meh je mara, sarap jon love love otara. Val val otara. So I need to do more something. So Maharaj says that if in your last moments you think of wealth or money, you'll come over and over again as a snake. So he was a sad snake at this point. He came back as a snake. And what happened in this life cycle is that the family went away one day. So his family, his sons have got kids now, grandkids. They've gone out. And a kid went onto the playground in their courtyard. And he forgot that he was obviously in the loop. He was of the life cycle of a snake. So he thought, oh, I need to go help this baby. And the baby obviously got scared of the snake, hit it and killed it. So then he died. But Saki doesn't end here either. So now Guru Nanak Dev Ji came back to the Pind. He came back to this guy's village and he's actually an ant. He's a Kida. And at this point, if anyone's been in India again, you'll know that the drainage system is exposed. So remember like when we used to play cricket in the Pind, the ball would go in the nali. Everyone know one about nali? Yeah? So the sewage system, the drainage, you have to pick it out. So the ant was in the drainage system. And this time Guru Nanak Dev Ji came with Bhai Mardana Ji. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji spotted the ant and said to Bhai Mardana Ji, oh, dig a hole up in that nali and pick that ant out. And Bhai Mardana Ji was like, what? And he goes, yeah, look, pick that ant out. Obviously I need to speak to this ant. We've got unfinished business with him. So Bhai Mardana Ji got a stick, picked the ant out. And Maharaj spoke to the ant and said, oh, you know, again, how's it going? And he goes, Maharaj, I'm in pain. I've really suffered. I've suffered all these different life forms. And, you know, I went to help them. I went to save the kid as well at the playground. The people I had so much attachment for, so much love for, they killed me anyway. And Maharaj said, look, what about now? Like, do you want me to liberate you now? And he said, yeah, Maharaj, please liberate me. And the way Vadde Mahaprabhu Sandhgani Gurbachan Singh Ji's told the Sakhi is that Maharaj said WhyGuru jap or some sort of jap of Gurbani, and the soul from the ant was leaving. It was ascending from his body to go to heaven, and he got darshan of his family, and he said, look, this is in the form of God is Guru Nanak Dev Ji. So do seva of them. They can liberate you. I was suffering on all these different life forms because I was attached to you. I had to face the beats because of attachment. I had to endure the pain from attachment. Make sure you don't suffer that attachment. Do seva of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and recite Gurbani, and don't be attached like I was. Then the next pankti, Maharaj says, Manna jam ka saath na jaye. So what does this mean? Like I said before, Jam refers to Jamdut. Jamdut are the angels of death. And Maharaj is saying that by believing and being a true believer, you don't go with the angels of death when it comes to your antasama, meaning towards the end of your life. And Gursikhs believe that those Gursikhs who are true believers, when it is their end time, it's actually Gursikhs or Mahapurkh that will collect their body, collect their soul and take them to Sachkhand, rather than it being the Jamdut, being the angels of death. So there's a few Sakhya that we can look at of Gursikhs' lives that show this as well. So in the times of Sant Gyani Gurbachan Singh Ji, in their Jatha was a Sikh called Bhai Sardul Ji. So it's weird that I came across this. Obviously this is in the steek that I referred to in the first talk that we done. But on Gyan Kirna, if you go on YouTube typing Gyan Kirna, this video got posted yesterday. So before I went to sleep and was doing a bit of prep for the talk, I thought, I can listen to this actually. And Vadde Mahaprabhu tells this story in a bit more detail, and they talk about Bhai Sardul Ji, and they say that this was a Gursikh that always had Bani in their mind, and they were always reciting Gurbani when they were doing seva, when they were doing Langar seva, Torde Ferde, walking around, they always had Gurbani in their mind and were always reciting Gurbani, and they were a true believer. So Parchar ji in the pind of Lailpur, I don't know where that is, you can search it up after. The whole Jatha was there, the Jatha meaning the group of Singhs with Sant Gyani Gurbachan Singh ji. And Parchar Singh ji's end time was coming. So while they were there, he said to the Singhs, "Oh, I can see the Panj Pyare." And he named them. He said, "I can see all the Panj Pyare." And the Singhs were like, "Where?" And he said, "Yeah, look, there they are." And he named the Panj Pyare. But the other Singhs couldn't see the Panj Pyare. They couldn't see the Panj Pyare, but Parchar Singh ji could, because it was his end summer. It was his time of the end of his life in this form. And the Panj Pyare had come to collect him, to liberate him, because he was a true believer. Another Sakhi in the pind of Boparai, there was a Gursikh of the name of Pai Sardara Singh ji, I think. And he was a premi of Mahapurkh Sant Atar Singh ji Mastwan Wale. So if you go on BOS TV, there's a podcast on Sant Atar Singh ji. And he was also a true believer. Sorry, going back to the Parchar Singh ji Sakhi, I missed out a key point. So when it was at the end time, the Panj Pyare came, he recited Ananda Sahib their part, he did Ardas, and then the Panj Pyare took him. And he left his body. Now the other Sakhi I'm now talking about, Parchar Singh ji, he was a premi of Sant Atar Singh ji Mastwan Wale. And at his end time, because he was also a true believer, Sant Atar Singh ji came and collected him. So again, being the point, manna jam ke saath na jaye, that by believing and being a true believer, the Jamdoot, the angels of death, they don't come collect you. Gursikhs will come collect you, Panj Pyare will come collect you. So now this Pangti will, I feel like this has gone really quickly. But the ending of this Pauri, Maharaj says again, like in last week's Pauri, Aisa naam niranjan hoye, je ko man jana man koye. So like the arth that Bhai Gurcharan Singh ji did last week, we're going to do the same arth. So starting with Aisa naam, so such is that name, this true name, that je ko, if anyone or one, not one person, but like if anyone, manze, in their mind, then man jana, they know it and accept it, they believe it, then that person, that niranjan hoye, pure, he becomes pure. So again, niranjan, anjan means blemish or stain, niranjan means the opposite of that. So that person who accepts that in their mind becomes pure. Such is the Mahanta or the Mahatam of Naam. And another sort of analogy that just shows the importance or the power that Naam has, the Niranjan Naam, the Naam that WhyGuru ji has given us of Gur Mantar, of Mool Mantar, anything we read in Gurbani, is that this analogy comes up, I think it's Sri Nanak Prakash Katha. So Maharaj says that our sins are like one piece of hay. You can use hay or lakkar meaning wood, but I've used hay here. So imagine you've got all this sin that you've accumulated in your life, maybe even in previous life. This photo is of me and my pop. It's not actually me, but that's probably how much pop sin I've accumulated. But Maharaj tells us that like that hay can be so quickly burnt, such is that name, Aisa Naam Niranjan Hoye, such is that name, so powerful is that name, that Naam of WhyGuru, that just by japping it once, just by saying it once, like it just takes one match to burn all of that hay, saying WhyGuru, all of our pap, all of our sins can be erased just saying WhyGuru once. So we've come to end of this week's talk. So the first, the 4 Pauri on believing, they are quite short compared to the other ones. But just to recap, so this was the second Pauri out of 4 on the importance of believing. We've spoken about the importance of believing, and not just the importance of believing, but also the extent of the believer and the spiritual avastha, or the, you can say, the spiritual level that that true believer gains, like Baba Buddha ji, like Baba Gurbakh Singh ji, like those Singhs who at their end summer, it wasn't Jamdoot that collected them, it was Panj Pyare, it was Gurmukhi, so Mahapurush. And then the Mahatma of believing. Then we've then spoken about being unafflicted by attachment. So obviously, like I said, we often read the translation for that Pangati, that mohe means our face, and we don't face beats or pains onto our face. The true believer doesn't face those pains or endure that pain or suffering. But we talked about the other arth, the other translation, that the true believer, he doesn't suffer the pains or beatings of being in attachment, like that old man was, until he became an ant and was like, I've had enough. And then we've just ended now with that the true believers, the angels of death, the Jamdut, they don't come near them. Instead, it's Gurmukhs, it's Mahapurush, it's Sant, it's Sants, it's Panch Pyare that come to collect them at the end of summer. So during this talk, I know I've made many mistakes, not just one. Please forgive me. You're the Sadh Sangat, you can forgive me. Like I've said, it's been a while now. It's been a while, and we've got some new faces. This is what I'm about to say now is also including to me. Please, like we heard in that Sakhi, just reciting one Japji Sahib part, the Mahatam, the importance of it. If we're not reading Japji Sahib, please start reading Japji Sahib. If you are reading Japji Sahib, get Japji Sahib memorized. We already spoke about that in the first week, the importance of getting Japji Sahib memorized. And if you are reciting Japji Sahib, start reading several Japji Sahibs and Maharaj Kirpa. We can continue going through this course and going through the teachings of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Please give me your blessings. Deho Sajjana Sisriya Jo Hove Sahib Seo Mere WhyGuru Ji Ka Khalsa WhyGuru Ji Ki Fateh. Any questions?
WhyGuru Ji Ka Khalsa WhyGuru Ji Ki Fateh. I've got the mic, so I might as well kick us off. I find it really ironic when you were talking about the importance of Naam. It's so powerful that it can burn all of our sins, yet it's the hardest thing for us to do. So I can't think of a time where I've ever just set aside 5 minutes just to sit down and recite Naam. I just wondered if you had any tips, like, because life is so busy and it's really hard. And sometimes it can feel boring to our brain as well. So I just wondered if you had any advice on just sort of taking those steps, please.
I should probably come to you for advice, but I can just go on again stuff I've heard in Katha, not stuff that I do. But I forgot if there's Panktiya for it or if it's just analogies given. But when we think of doing Paap, or when we're about to do Paap or bad actions, we don't think twice. We quickly do it. We just do it. But when it comes to sitting down, even doing our Nitnem, stuff that even Amritaris, you have to do. There's no, negotiations. You have to do your Nitnem. But even then we might think, oh God, when am I going to do my Nitnem? Oh, should I do Nitnem? You got to do your Nitnem. So you got to look at it like that. It's a non-negotiable. And when you're Amritari, it's not just I'll listen to my Japji Sahib on the tube today. No, you're doing your Nitnem, because that's the agreement, that's the contract you've signed with Maharaj, with the Panch Pyare. So if you're not Amritari, just look at it like that. You've signed a contract with Maharaj. You're going to set, however, if you find Panch Banya too much yet, Satabanya, just maybe start with Japji Sahib in the morning, Rehras in the evening, and Kirtan Swela before bed. How long is that really? How long is that really? It's not that long. You know what I mean? I can speak for myself. I'll easily watch a football match for 90 minutes. No problem. But will I do 90 minutes of part without getting up? I don't think I've even done that. You know what I mean? So we need to look at it like that. What's more important to us? What's more important to us? Is it at our end of summer, when we go to Taramraj, when we go to the accounts holder, or when what are we going to show them? Yeah, I watched bare football. I was good at cricket. I couldn't ride a bike. Or we're going to show, I tried to do part. I tried to sit in Sangat. What's important to us? I think when you put it like that, what's your priorities in life? What's important to you? Then the lens of what you're doing day to day. If it's not corroborating what you said is important to you, then you need to look at yourself. But again, nothing happens without Guru Prasad, without Maharaj's Kirpa. So you have to do Ardas as well. But then that doesn't mean be lazy. When you wake up and go to work, you don't do Ardas, Maharaj, wake me up. You just get up and go. Same thing with your part. Just get up, do it, and obviously do Ardas to Maharaj.
Thank you, bro. Has anyone else got any questions? Any vichar?
Can someone else ask questions so I don't have to keep facing the big bosses?
You talked a lot about the body of Monday now, about believing, accepting. So maybe a bit of a personal question. I'd like asking the speakers personal questions. But when do you think in your life is an example where you have believed, where you truly believe that you've gone from just listening because like you wasn't always into Sikhi, right? You had, you know, Sikhi elements within your life and your family's own different influences. But when do you think that moment changed where you started to believe?
So I think for me, the reason you might think every time I've done a talk, I think I've said that part about if you're not reading Japji Sahib, start reading Japji Sahib, and etc. etc. The other steps as well. Well, this course or Japji Sahib actually is quite. It's obviously personal to everyone, but it was probably one of the key sort of pillars or milestones in my Sikhi journey. So my mum would bang on about it to us from young that do Mool Mantar the job. So me and my younger brother, even my older brother, I think he would do Mool Mantar, and most times I'd actually fall asleep while doing it because I do it before school. They're like, "Get up, you're not even ready yet." And I was like, "Oh, snap, all right." So she started like that, just recite Mool Mantar, and I'd try to. But then when I got to uni, she was like, "Hajay, she's gonna do Mool Mantar, or maybe try, read Japji Sahib." And I was like, all right, cool. So my mum gave me a Gutka Sahib, which had half. So on one ang, the left side would be the English transliteration, so like you read on Sikhi to the max, with the Romanized letters, and the other side would have the arth, the meanings of that. So I think reading that and then reading even the Romanized translations of that, I think that's when I just had a couple eureka moments, you could say. Not that I became a true believer, but it was just like, oh, there's more to this. Like reading it, just getting a bit more understanding, and then definitely listening to Katha. So when I was at uni, Bhai Jagraj Singh Ji's Japji Sahib Katha was the first Katha I'd listened to. Katha meaning discourse. So hearing that in English and hearing what Japji Sahib, what Maharaj is telling us, it essentially blew my mind. So like I said, it's wicked that you guys are coming here, but if you're not reading Japji Sahib, please start reading Japji Sahib. And if you've not listened to Katha before, this is obviously really good. Coming here, you're doing Sangat as well. But I've said it before as well, there's OGs that have done amazing Katha of Sri Japji Sahib already available on the internet. So listen to that as well when you've got time. And when you Gaviya Suniya Mana Rakhiya Pao. So when you not just sing it, but then you listen to it, hear it, accept it, believe it, that's when you Maharaj Kirpa start to make changes in your life. I'm still faking it, but chalo.
Thank you, bro. Anybody else? Any questions from any of the other Sangat? ठीक है. Thank you so much, Paranveer Singh, for a great talk. बेनती है to Banash Singh ji, if you don't mind, bro, to